I think we'll go ahead and get started. So I guess I'll start by welcoming everyone to our presentation today. We're going to introduce people. So I may have to have the speakers. So I'm Joe Ritter. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Albert Baker Fund. Dr. Libby Shiren will also be presenting. Libby, if you want to talk, so maybe.
Hi, it's great to see everybody, and we're so happy you joined us.
And we have two guest speakers who are students that are joining us, Georgia Rather.
Hello.
And Odie Fields. And George is at Principia and Odie is at the Maine Maritime Academy. Odie.
Hi, everyone.
Great. Okay, so a couple logistics for the meeting. First thing would be to let everyone know that the meeting is being recorded. We've had a number of people asked to watch later on, and so this way they'll be able to, and it'll be posted appropriately, and we'll send an email out with the information on how to reach that. Please mute your microphone during the presentation. There will be a question and answer period at the end. So if you have any questions, you can ask those at that time. And then during the presentation, if you have a question, you just don't, either write it down or you can also submit it through chat at the bottom. And Jeff will be monitoring those and can help remind people to ask their questions when we get to that part of the presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the meeting is going to have essentially three portions to it. Get to the next slide. Thanks. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to give a brief background on the Albert Baker Fund. Libby's going to speak on the three initiatives that we have that will support student success. And then we'll have our student panel and talk about how they've been involved in our pilot mentoring program and project. So with that, the mission, if you don't know, is to serve of the Albert Baker Fund is to serve the cause of Christian Science and humanity. And we do this by providing resources for the education and development of Christian scientists. And specifically, that means we give tuition scholarships for students of Christian Science who are studying at accredited post-secondary institutions. And this includes tuition support for Christian Science nurses training. So our founding member, so Joseph Hurd in 1964, along with fellow Christian scientists in California and Boston, recognized a need. He was manager of the college org division, and he recognized there were Christian Science students around the country who, if they could have a little bit of financial support to either complete or continue their college education, they would be greatly helped. And so in honor of Mary Baker Eddy's older brother Albert, the Albert Baker College Loan Program was founded. And the rest of it, they say, is history. There's a lot of history, and I think it's really exciting, but we're not going to go into that right now. So next slide. So just to give you an idea of the size or the impact, in the past year, 510 students received scholarships from the Albert Baker Fund from around the world. And we awarded about $1.6 million in these scholarships. And in 2021, there was a major change, and the Albert Baker Fund began awarding only scholarships or scholarships only as for all of our programs. So we went from being a loan program to now all scholarships. And when we look at the United States and Canada, of those 510, 238 of our students are in the United States or Canada receiving a scholarship. And that's at over 100 different colleges and universities. And our scholarships from the Albert Baker Fund range from $3,000 to $4,500 in the US. And when we look at the scholarship requirements, sometimes people are interested in what are the requirements? Well, everyone needs to be a student of Christian Science. And one way you demonstrate that is as being a member of the Mother Church. We also want to make sure that the students will be successful. So we require a 2.5 grade point average for their most recent academic term. So if it's a high school senior who's going to college, it would be their last semester in high school or the most recent semester in college. You need to be a citizen or legal permanent resident of the country where they're attending school. And we use Canada and the United States interchangeably for that one. And then, of course, enrolled in an accredited program at either a college, university, community college, or vocational school, and have financial need. So those are our 6 criteria for receiving an Albert Baker Scholarship. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Dr. Shiren, and she can talk about our new mentoring program that we're putting in place. Libby?
All right, thank you so much. The first thing is kind of why do we have a mentoring program? Well, we had a desire by our Albert Baker Fund students for mentors to have them in the major disciplines and in career fields with a perspective of Christian Science. And many of our students were very excited about getting connected with others that have been in the profession to learn from them. So that was the motivation that started. And then what is our vision? Well, the goal for our mentoring program is to connect any of our students who are interested in working with a mentor. Some have 2 mentors, 3 mentors. It depends where they are in their program for what their needs are, but we individualize it. And the goal is to help the students explore, develop, and expand their educational, professional, and spiritual growth. And we say through and beyond college. We have several graduate students that are in this program and students who have graduated who've contacted us. So we're there to help support our students as they go through school and then once they graduate. It's designed to provide a structured but a flexible format for our students. And the key is to help them develop one-on-one relationships and also to connect with students, the students with each other, as well as the professionals in the community, in our CS community. Some people have asked the question of how we link our students to our programs. Well, there are 3 initiatives that have come out of our work with our mentoring program. The first one is the one-on-one portion of our mentoring, which is students to adults and professionals in their field. We started out with this pilot program. It's a pilot. This is the first year we're trying this, and we've had some great success. We had the goal of having 8 to 12 students linked individually with mentors. We actually have 44 students who have actively been engaged in working with their mentors one-on-one. And so we're really pleased with this level of participation. And I think people say, what is the unique part of our mentoring program? Because there are a lot of mentoring programs out there for college students, and each of them look a little different. I think one of the key things for us is that our mentors are all Christian Scientists, and it then allows our students to understand and explore and learn about how a Christian Scientist practices in their profession. And I know as an educator, many students that I've mentored, they've really wanted to know, well, how do you apply that concept as a Christian Scientist in a classroom? And so it allows us to have some really deep conversations about those things, as well as just kind of what to expect and how to deal with things. And so this has been very successful. And some want to know how we match our students, and this has been a really cool thing. I've really loved getting to know our students. I had the pleasure and privilege of interviewing about 250 students as they applied for their scholarships. And in the process of doing the scholarship application, Jeff, next slide, please. We asked them 3 questions. We want to know what are their academic and non-academic interests, what their hopes are to accomplish in their education, and then how do they personally use Christian Science in their daily lives, including examples. And so the students write an essay on these questions and submit it. And then I read them, and then I have a conversation with each of the students that generally is about a half hour, and we just talk about these things. And so I take notes, and when we're done, I think about, and I ask the students, would they like a mentor, and in what field, or kind of what would be helpful to them at this time. And so then we work with matching our students to the mentors we have. And so it's just, and just wanted to kind of put in there, anyone that's listening, if you haven't already had the opportunity to join us as a mentor or what we call a career ally who is working with students on resume, LinkedIn profiles, informational interviews, etc., we invite you to contact me so that we can have a conversation and I can get you on the list, because I just think it's really a wonderful opportunity to work with our young Christian Scientists. And so we welcome you to be a part of it. So with the one-on-one mentoring, each student is assigned a mentor. They meet once or twice every semester, more once a semester because of schedules. And our goal is to assign any student in our program a mentor if they want it. We're starting out small. We have the kind of phrase, crawl, walk, and run. We are in the crawl stage. So we're starting small and building it based on feedback and student interest and just what we're learning in the process. And so then we have our second initiative is peer-to-peer student learning communities. And this was, for me, really exciting because as I had the conversations with our students, one of the things that emerged from many of our students was that they remarked at how much they loved and valued being able to learn how to practice their Christian Science with peer-to-peer interactions, mainly through the camps and through NLC peers and Sunday school teachers. And so they really were asking, is there a way that we can connect with one another? And one of the things with our students is that so many of them are in institutions where they may be the only Christian Scientists in their school. Many of them have graduated Sunday school, most of them have, and they are really desiring being connected with other students in their areas or disciplines as peers so that they can talk to each other about coming together and what life is like in college as practicing Christian Scientists, how to think about different things in careers, what are kind of some of the questions and topics they're wrestling with. And so we're putting together our first meetings for the learning communities are next month. And then we're going to be meeting probably once every 4 to 6 weeks and having opportunities to be as a team and work as a group. And just learning how to talk to each other as professionals and how to talk to professionals. We'll invite mentors and others interested in those fields into the learning community so students can interact with them as groups. So we're very excited about this. This is the one I think the students are extremely excited about. I have many who have asked, when are they starting? So this is the second initiative. And then our third initiative is our career-based Albert Baker LinkedIn groups. And this is one is still forming, but the purpose of it is to connect and link our students, our graduates, our mentors, and the professionals, which are career allies, and others who request to join. It's a place where we hope that we are providing a platform for all of these different constituencies to have an opportunity to talk to one another, to network with one another, to ask questions, to discuss topics, to just help support each other as they're out in the field and doing things. And so again, this is really helpful to our students. It was formed to help to support our students and our recent graduates, but we need anybody who's interested in supporting it through their careers and professions. So again, we would love to have people join that, because the larger the group, I think the better interactions and connections our students will make. And so with that, those are our three initiatives: the one-on-one mentoring, which has begun, the student learning communities, which will start in February, and then the career-based LinkedIn groups will be getting up and running sometime in the next 3 months. And with that, I'm going to have Georgia Rathers and Odie as our student panel talk. And Georgia is a senior at Principia College. She's studying economics. And Odie is a freshman at the Maine Maritime Academy. Both have really cool experiences. And so I was wondering if we could have Odie and Georgia, first talk a little bit about their experience in college. So whoever would like to start.
Yeah, I can start. So
Wonderful.
as Libby said, I'm a senior, so I'm on my final semester here in college, and it's kind of more of a what comes next time in my life. But I've appreciated looking back on all the experiences that college has had and all the unique opportunities that kind of came with it. Most recently, I just got back from a 3-week abroad where we studied music in Europe, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity because it's something so out of my normal studies of economics or business. But it was really cool to actually be in country and experiencing some pretty cool concerts and just the overall culture and history that music has played in Europe. And it's not something I ever thought I would get to actually study. So that was a really cool opportunity to learn something new. And just in general, my experience in college has been very community based. I think I had a unique opportunity of going through my 4 years with COVID kind of in the middle of it. But I'm actually very grateful for how much it bonded me to the community that I'm in, and how much it strengthened relationships with the people around me. And I think that is like probably my favorite part of my college experience has just been all the different relationships with faculty members and my peers and my coaches, that I've gotten to strengthen and grow. And I think that's what I'll remember the most after college too.
Thank you. Odie, a little bit about your college experience.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Odie Fields, and yeah, I'm a freshman at Maine Maritime in a program that essentially uh, it helps students become captains in the maritime world. And yeah, so I'm in the regiment, so I wear a uniform, and it's a very structured environment. Uh, there's lots of rules, and there's a hierarchy, and with students and staff, a lot of leadership based instruction. And let's see, yeah, there's lots of mandatory activities. Yes, I'm a freshman, so I've got a lot of more like the messier tasks to do around the training ship that we have at the academy. And so, yeah, brand new, super excited to build a community, have a bunch of friends, and yeah, just starting out and learning a lot in a very different college experience than I was necessarily picturing while I was in high school. I wasn't envisioning this, but it just seemed right. I kind of let go of the steering wheel, and things just fell into place, and here I am, and I really, really love it.
Cool, thanks. And now I was thinking both of you could talk a little bit about the highlights of your experience in the mentoring program. What has that been like? What have you done? Just talk a little bit about what you've learned, what your experience has been with the mentoring.
Yeah, so I was definitely nervous before my first call with my mentor, because I know the common question for a college senior is what's next? Like, what are you doing next? And I had absolutely no idea. And on the call, I was super nervous, and she asked me what I wanted to do afterwards. And I kind of said, I don't really have any specific idea as to what I want to do. And she relayed all my fears because she shared that she also didn't know what she wanted to do right after college. And she had taken some time right after to try and figure it out and kind of had some things fall into place. And she realized that it wasn't something she needed to be super stressed or worked up about. And that it always kind of would find its way. And that was so relieving for me to hear, because that I think is something I definitely needed to learn. And then throughout our time this past semester and then this coming semester, I'm sure we'll talk even more, but it's just been great to talk to someone who's working in my field of study and kind of can share things that from a perspective that isn't just a professor or a peer that heard it from a relative or something, but someone who's actually working in that field. And just, it's been really great knowing that there's someone out there who's rooting for me besides my professors or my family or something.
Thanks. Odie.
Yeah. So, because I'm a freshman, so obviously Georgia's a senior. Because I'm a freshman, I don't really have a lot of career questions per se, because it's my second semester and I'm just talking about like the very basics. And there, so that's not really where the mentor comes in, but it is super where my mentor comes in, is it's very comforting to have a friend and to ask professional questions with and have a good discussion about uh, choices and the college dynamic, and he's obviously very knowledgeable because he was in the industry. But with having the most important part of it, the whole thing, I've got professors I can ask, like, what do you mean by this and that? But when it comes to having a common foundation of Christian Science, really changes the game in terms of the mentor relationship. It really means I can go have deep conversations that feel productive and reassuring. Um, it's just a very special mix dynamic between the two.
Great. And do you guys have anything else you'd like to add about how Christian Sciences played a role in what you're doing, or with the mentor, how having a Christian Scientist who's a mentor? Odie kind of spoke to it a little bit, but can you elaborate any further of how that's helped support you?
I think for me, in college, you spend the whole time like studying and prepping practically for your future or whatever your career may be, and you're getting all the tools under your belt. But I think having a mentor who went through all that as well, but is also a Christian Scientist, kind of reminded me I have another tool in my tool belt that's honestly more useful than anything I could learn in college. And I think it was just very reassuring to know that there's more than one way to go about it, and that God's always in control, instead of just us trying to make sure we study the proper things and network in the proper way so that we can get where we need to be, but we can also trust in God as well.
It's cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So it's very. I think it means a lot to me to have a mentor in which I can discuss like real life problems through the lens of Christian Science. My day-to-day life is highly structured. Most of my responses are yes sir or yes ma'am, where free thinking is not necessarily at the forefront of education. It's mostly following instructions and doing what you're told, doing to the best of your ability. But my mentor and I had a really long phone call that was mostly based upon using Christian Science as an uplifting tool rather than feeling secluded because of it, because of how we see the world. And so I felt that was very special, that my mentor kind of walked me through the paces of how to use something that seems super precious, but also use something that's super precious in a world that kind of like my world seems to feel like it's undervalued. So that's where it was really special.
Thanks. All right. I think, Joe, do you have any concluding comments you want to make before we open it up to questions?
Well, actually, we have a question already written in that I think I'd like to start with. And
True.
questions from Lisa Meacham, and it's great. She's asking, she'd like to know, and I think, for both Odie and Georgia, do you feel comfortable being able to share Christian Science on your college campus? Or can you even admit to being religious, given that so much of the college environment are not religious, or kind of don't seem to be open or won't share?
I think for me it's a bit easier because I do go to Principia, so I have a lot of fellow Christian Scientists around me, but it's definitely, for a lot of people, it's the first time they get to choose whether they go to church or not. It's not their parents making them get in the car or something. And so there's definitely it's definitely more of your choice whether you go to church or not. And I think I've had a lot of really interesting conversations with my friends just about what that kind of means, and how we're now more responsible for our own faith and our own thoughts than we were growing up, maybe with our parents helping us get to church and everything. But I think for me, it's a little different because I am around a bunch of other Christian Scientists, and that's part of the reason I chose to go to Prince. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Odie, what's your take?
Yeah. So, like I said, the academy can tend to feel a little bit rougher, where the idea that everyone's here to support each other, and we have a common relationship even without knowing the person isn't necessarily a viewpoint that everyone has. But at one point, unfortunately, last semester there was a tragedy involving students in a car accident, and I felt super prepared in a way because of all my years of Sunday school to help in not in like a here let's go to church together, but more like a bringing good ideas to the forefront to help people through this really difficult time. So while I don't have it, like it's not a very easy thing to bring up in conversation, I do apply it somewhat under the radar. And if someone were to approach and were to be interested in ideas I was sharing, then sure, I would be very up to sharing my experience with CS.
Are there any other Christian Science students at the Maine Maritime Academy, Odie?
While I can't say for certain, I mean, there's only 1,000 people in my school, so it's relatively small. But I can't say for certain whether there is or not. I'm going to say no because
You don't know of any.
I don't know of any. But of the people I've talked to, no one's jumped out as someone who I would have an inkling.
Thank you for those answers. I think at this point, if somebody, one of our attendees would like to ask a question, you could either use the reaction button at the bottom to raise your hands. We can call on you, or just unmute and ask your question. And we would love to take some time now to have a question and answer session for you about either what the students are experiencing, what it's like to be on the college campus today, and or the new mentoring program. And I see David Cornell's hands up.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. David, please.
Hi, Joe.
Hi,
Dave
Dave.
Cornell
Good to have you
here.
here.
Boise, Idaho. Good to see you. Good to meet Georgia. Good to meet Odie and see their different experiences. Just by way of brief introduction, since Joe knows me quite well, and I think perhaps Libby does too.
Yes, I do.
I'm a former college professor at Principia College for 40 plus years. And I experienced it during those times when all of the students were ostensibly Christian Scientists, as were the faculty and staff. And I think the faculty and staff still are. But I just taught a course in mathematics, first week online, first week in person, and the last week in person, that's week 1 and 15 during the fall semester in algebra for college students. And I had close to 10 students. And at this particular time, I don't know what fraction of my students were Christian Scientists and which were not, but I was aware of something that had not been a part of my experience, nor a part of my current wife's experience, because both of us went through college and we really can count on our fingers if there were any times when we were out of class because of illness. I'm sure there were times of challenges like the measles epidemic that during the time when I was there, and that took some people out of class. But it was new to me to experience people say, well, I have a headache today, or my stomach feels bad today, or I'm not feeling well today, I'm feeling ill, so I can't attend class. I was holding classes 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and for an hour each. And I was doing this online from Boise to ELSA. So it was an interesting experience for 13 out of the 15 weeks. And it was a little challenging to feel very close to where the students were metaphysically, let alone thinking about college algebra. And I just wonder if, Georgia, if you feel as a current college student there, if you feel that you're inclined to try to just be quiet about your science relationship, or if you find there are some students that are non-scientists with whom you might share some words of comfort to them from your perspective. So my question is for Georgia, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does. I think it's definitely been a different experience, having the change happen where there's more non-Christian scientists on campus. And I went to the upper school before coming to the college, and so I can kind of compare and contrast like all 4 years where it was only Christian scientists as my peers versus now where I have some who aren't Christian scientists. And I think for me, some of my favorite conversations regarding Christian Science has been with students or like my peers who aren't Christian Scientists, yet they know that they're at a school that is for Christian Scientists. And just the questions that they have. And something I've appreciated with every single conversation is it's never come from a form of like malice, where I've had conversations in the past where it's been like, oh, you guys don't use doctors, like what do you do if XYZ? But it's more, they want to learn more about it. And so it's a very genuine conversation. And I think I've had most of those being on sports teams here. I've played basketball and soccer here, and having teammates where it's a mix of Christian Scientists and people who did not grow up in a Christian Science home. But there's always a very genuine understanding as to why maybe if something seems to happen, why we don't immediately go for a trainer, and how we have a Christian Science nurse come on the field for us and give us treatment and talk to a practitioner rather than a trainer treating it how you would traditionally see maybe in a sports setting. But yeah, I've found it's definitely very different, but I don't necessarily think it's in a bad way, because I've yet to encounter anyone who doesn't at least have a respect for it. But yes, it is very different than it used to be.
Thank you.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Georgia. Are there other questions that people would like to ask? William? Sure. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you.
Thanks.
I was saying it's a pleasure to be here and to be listening to the program and becoming better informed as to what the Albert Baker funding is doing for students. I had a question with regard to financing. And if my understanding is correct, the financing that is available on an individual basis is up to about $4,500. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's the Albert Baker Scholarship, would be up to $4,500.
And that would be for a single semester or for a full year program?
That is the annual amount. And so some students will use it for one semester, some will use it for the entire year. And we would love to have funding available so that we could give larger scholarships. And that's one of the, of course, one of the, every nonprofit's looking for, wow, we'd love to give more. And that's something that we're trying to focus on, is trying to figure out, is there a way to get larger scholarships for our students? And we know student debt is such a major it's a whole nother presentation, but student debt is a major issue in the United States. And we want to kind of look at that, but that's where it is right now.
I think you've answered my question. It really is in a different forum that this issue should be addressed and gone into more detail. My initial take on it was that given the cost of education today, $4,500, although extremely helpful, when you're dealing with $30,000 and $40,000 costs per year in education, it's a start, but it's not going to meet the needs of many students. And if I'm reading you correctly, you're saying that it's an area that the fund is working on and working towards a program that is going to satisfy perhaps even more of those needs.
That's exactly right. And if you go back far enough, when Joseph Hurt founded the Albert Baker Fund, and the idea was the Albert Baker Fund was a gap funder. So it wasn't somebody who would fund a major portion. It was enough to, a few $100s would go obviously a long way back in 1964. But, a few $100s in 64 is $4,500 in, 2023. And we see that there's just such a need, and the cost of education has increased so much that we would like to help more. And that's kind of, we're living within our means. We want to exist in a perpetuity to help young Christian Scientists. And that's, we would love to do more.
My understanding is that at this point in time, it's more meeting individual, specific programs rather than a total program. So that if someone, for example, goes to Europe to study music as part of a program, the expenses of that program, that visit to Europe or some other individual program within a greater educational experience, that program could be met with the assistance.
What we fund programs that are part of an accredited degree program. And so we don't fund specific individual programs, but if there was a program that was part of an accredited degree program, then yes. And so we have students who will come to us for funding, and the $4,500 is our maximum award for that year. And so if you go on another program, that funding, as long as it's part of the accredited program, would be supported, but it would need to be, it's still part of that same amount. So that's
And our funding really supports tuition, fees, and books. So it's, for that aspect of their education.
Understood. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So we had another question come in for Georgia and Odie, and I think I would love to hear the answer to it. Would you recommend other Albert Baker Fund scholars participate in the mentor program?
Personally, I would. This is I'm a senior and I've gone through Albert Baker Fund all 4 years. But this was my first year with the mentor aspect of it. And I honestly appreciated that so much because it felt like it was more, it like is preparing me more for afterwards, as opposed to just helping with the current state of the tuition costs and everything, but it's actually supporting my future as a student, not just the current time period.
Thanks, Georgia.
Yes, of course. And like George was saying, I do also would absolutely recommend the mentoring program because I've spoken the benefits for myself, but I really do see how it's applicable to everyone else. I mean, the idea that you're going to school and studying one topic, having had no, almost or little to no real life experience, it's really helpful to have someone who's going to bridge that gap for you, at least in spirit. Of course, there's opportunities everywhere, but someone who can bounce ideas off of is a great idea. And also, I'm really excited for the other future installations of the types of mentoring programs. Everything that Lee was saying was super exciting. I'm also excited for the student platform for sharing ideas, bridging against schools.
All right, thank you very much. And we probably have time for one or two more questions if someone would like to ask one.
Looks like Ursula
Ursula
Mueller has asked a question. Do you want to check that one?
And Samuel also has his hand up. So Ursula and then Samuel, and then probably we're out of time.
I can read it. So it's: to listen to and mentor young Christian Scientists is a privilege. Share professional experience in how to live Christian Science. Thank you to ABF for establishing the mentor program. Oh, I'm not sure that was a question as much as it was just a comment. Share, yeah. If there's a question in there, Ursula, feel free to unmute yourself and help me understand what your question is.
I think it came across as a very nice compliment. Thank you.
Yes, Ursula is one of our mentors.
Oh, there's Ursula now.
I just wanted to also mention that it's a mutual blessing, not only for the student, but also for the mentor. I'm learning a lot by listening to the young people, by being able to share my professional experience and also be available to share how I could apply Christian Science in my professional life. And thanks to Albert Baker for setting up this mentor program, because after all, your mission is to serve humanity. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
very much.
you, Ursula, and all of our mentors and career allies who are working with us right now, because you really helped make this program happen. So very, very happy and pleased to have your participation. Samuel, I see you have a hand up.
Yes, my name is Samuel. I just wanted to ask this question to either Joe or Libby. I know you give scholarships even to students in Africa. Is there a program also for those students in Africa? I'm here in the US. I'm a Christian Science nurse. I've studied political science at a university here, but I get to go back home more often. So I was wondering if you're extending a hand out there for the African students in such a program.
Samuel, your question, I didn't plant this question, just so everyone knows, but that's the segue to what I was going to bring up. We are just piloting the program. This is the first time we've had this mentoring program here in the United States and Canada. So it's a brand new program. And we have two wonderful people we work with, Lamek Katamba and Dominique Benig, and they, once they heard there's a pilot program, said, well, what about us? How soon is the program going to be in Africa? So we are going to, crawl, walk, then run. And so we're going to emerge gently, but there is a hope, expectation that we would be able to do a similar program for all of our international students, both in Africa and in Europe and the Philippines. So it's a great idea. And Robin Jones and I actually are heading out a week from Thursday, February 2nd, and we'll spend 6 weeks in Africa, visiting 6 of the countries where we have programs. The Albert Baker Fund has programs in 13 African countries, and we'll be visiting 6, meeting with students and our in-country representatives, as well as other groups that we work with there. So the answer is we would certainly love to, and we want to emerge and be successful here on a small scale, grow that, and then grow to an international program. So, and in terms of programming, we are expecting we'll have a similar program probably in April or early May to talk about what we learned and what the Albert Baker Fund is doing in Africa. So, keep an eye on your emails, and we'll try and get that out to that same group so we can give you an update on that program. And I think just to keep everyone on schedule, and I know for Odie, it's like midnight out there on the East Coast. I'm joking, it's not, it's what, 7:45. But if you have any interest, or if you have interest in it, I love it how Ursula pointed out that there is a blessing for all the mentors as well. If you're interested in being one of our mentors, if you're interested in being a career ally, we'd love to have you, and just reach out to Libby or to any of us, and we'll get you connected and kind of go through that. And with that, I guess I would say thank you very much. And if you have burning questions that you really need to ask and you didn't get your hand up, please feel free to email me, email Libby, or admin@albertbakerfund.org, and we will get to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.